or something.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
that's what we have in the capital projects
Three
reserve
minutes,
right
3
now.
minutes after 2, I'd like to
Well,
call
no,
the
that's what
meeting
we
to
have in the
order.
budget.
Roll call, I guess I failed to do this the last time around. I just made it. We have with us Nancy Olson, Bob Geppert, Ron DePonte, Phil Measy, Nancy Hall, and John Grega. So we have the current entire committee, and we have a quorum. I'd like to work on the minutes. You've had the December 14th minutes for a month. Are there any changes to the December 14th meeting minutes that anyone would like to make?
December? Did you say December?
December 14th.
We didn't approve them last month.
We did not approve them last
Yeah.
month because you had only gotten them a couple of days in advance. The same is true with January. If you don't want to approve, if you haven't had a chance to review those, we can delay that till the next month. Any comments, any changes, deletions?
Some of us weren't here, so.
Yeah, okay. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the December 14th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
December 14th.
Moved by Mr. Grega.
If we weren't here, we should abstain?
Yes.
Okay.
Seconded by Mr. Geppert. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Please note some
Abstentions?
abstentions for.
I wasn't here, so I'll
You weren't
abstain too.
Okay, so we have
think I was.
4 yeas, and Ms. Olson and Mr. DePonte abstain, so the minutes are approved as currently written. Now we have the January 11th minutes, which I sent you rather late, but I tend to get them late from the lady who prepares them. I would ask, first place, I'd ask, do people who remember the places where I left blanks, because I couldn't remember, and the gal who prepares these apparently didn't hear anything on the tapes. The discussion, Nancy, you said ensued regarding various accounts and the need for a new count for hurricane.
I'm pretty sure, Jason, I think it was hurricane expenses that we need to set
Hurricane
up.
expenses, okay,
Yeah, replacement.
okay. Hurricane replacement expenses, okay. That's on page 1 under item 3, second bullet,
Okay.
okay? So that's one change we want to make. Okay. Moving forward, the replacement of the magnolia trees. It seems to me anytime we have a motion that involves, anytime we have something that involves money, the amount ought to go into the motion. And there are a couple of cases here where it was left out. The cost of the magnolia trees, does anybody remember?
You should.
Jason?
I believe it was 4720.
4720, okay.
How many trees was it?
45, 40. I think it was 1135 a tree and it was 4 trees.
And 4 trees.
Okay. 4720.
That would not be 40.
4520.
4520. I was going to say that, no, 4540 would get. 4540. Okay, 4540 into that space. Then, once again, if you go back to, where's
Hiring the guard.
yeah, hiring the guard, and so that
It was 3,200 a month
3,200 per month. Okay, so
For 3 months.
for 3 months.
For 3 months. Okay, it was approved. 3,200 a month for 3 months. Okay.
Two meetings today, 2 phone calls. Twice I forgot to turn it off.
Okay.
Also, in that one,
Yes.
if you could change where it says Miss Olson to Miss Hall.
Ms. Hall.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I was the one.
Ms. Hall was the one who made the motion. Okay. Got that one corrected.
Okay.
The last one of my blanking out, which I do frequently, is on item 10. And Bob, we were turning the second phase of the, and she didn't get has started, and he believes that this project should be completed by March 30th. Aeration. I figured it was either aeration or gutter.
Nope, we're still a long way from gutters.
Yeah, okay. Now, do people feel they've seen enough of these to approve them, or if you want, we can postpone approval till next month?
I'm good.
I'm good
I'm
with
good.
changes.
You good? Okay, then I would
So-
entertain a motion
I move that they,
Ron?
as amended.
as amended.
A second?
Mr. DeFonte moves, Mr. Gifford seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We were all here, so that's 6-0. The minutes are
We're rolling
approved.
today.
We're finally up to date. Okay, financials update. Nancy?
Okay, I passed out the more easier to read financial statements than the ones that come through. The one thing that I didn't include in it is the,
Which one is easier to read? I'm sorry.
I just put it in front of everybody's desk a minute ago,
Yeah.
all stapled together, and it starts.
Profit and
out-
loss?
Well, this one,
Okay, thank you.
that one, the one that you can actually,
See.
Yeah,
it's not shrunk down.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble with QuickBooks, and I have a call into them to try to resolve the issue. It's pulling weird numbers into my budget for some reason.
Okay.
So even though all the expenses are right on that, there's a couple of budget items that just appeared out of nowhere. So, like, do you remember with Securitas, we used to separate out that 21,000 for Affordable Care Act?
Yes,
Well, I don't put that, I put it all in as one number in the budget.
yes, which it should be now, I think, yeah.
On my budget there, it shows it all as one number, but when it does the comparison for actual, it separates that 21,000 out, and it adds another 80-some thousand dollar account in, that I don't know where those numbers are coming from. So, I've got a message into QuickBooks, they left me a message back to call them and do the online chat, so they can figure it out. But the actual expenses are all correct on it, it's just the comparison to the budget might not be accurate right now. So, but anyway, we're in good shape, we're not, we're not over budget on anything. Like, we will be for plant replacements coming up, but short of that. And then on the balance sheet, we've still got our reserve account that we haven't even touched for anything and probably won't need to for any of the replacements, I don't think. I think we have enough cash sitting in there outside the capital accounts, so.
So when you say, you mean the capital reserve account?
The capital reserve account,
we won't have to-
I don't see any reason we'd have to touch that for replacements
Okay.
without the cash we have sitting outside of it. On the balance sheet right now, let's see, we have 878,000 sitting in the capital projects fund, plus unassigned, we still have, excuse me, we have 1.3 million in the fixed asset reserves and 4.3 million in unassigned, so, we'll be good for it.
Nancy, do we need to make some formal move to move money to the capital reserve account? It seems to me every year we make a recommendation to the board to actually move the amount of money that we provided
We do,
in the
and,
budget.
and we've kind of moved the amount that's in our budget for capital reserves up and down a little bit to keep from having to raise,
Yes, I understand that.
fees very much.
I understand that.
but you want to move some of the
Well,
excess funding over there?
yeah,
The amount that we
Well,
had,
one of the, excuse me.
Yeah, sure,
Nancy.
go ahead.
One of the questions when Philip, Robner, and I met with Jack,
Yes.
we discussed this whole issue
Yes.
about how much we've actually put in reserves
Right.
versus how much we might need to put in reserves.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes kind of critical to his analysis that we have a starting point in terms of how much money's there.
yeah,
I just asked Nancy a few minutes ago if we have a number
yeah.
for what that is, and that's germane to this discussion.
Yeah, 1.374460.
That's a point.
$1,374,460 is
But
what
we
we have.
haven't officially put in the reserve.
That's what's in there, on the balance sheet,
On
that's
the
what's in
balance
there.
sheet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the balance sheet, and would Inframark Finance no longer Severn Trent, would they confirm that number if you?
This
asked?
is the balance sheet from them.
From them? Okay.
Yes, this
all
isn't-
right. Okay, okay.
What I do only affects one line item on the budget for
Right.
the overall.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I really have to look at their balance sheet to know what we have. I mean,
Yeah.
ours is just gonna tell us what we have in that one line item.
no.
But this is the official balance sheet
Okay, good.
prepared by the accountants.
Okay.
And that's through December
Now,
31st.
in addition to that 1.3 million, there are other funds that are, I don't
Yes.
know what the right terminology would be.
They have
Unavailable or unassigned?
Unassigned.
right?
So they're just sitting there unassigned. They're
And
excess.
we know what that number is
That
according to
is
them?
$4,364,325. So we have a lot of cash.
Well,
sitting.
but some of that.
I was just gonna
That's
say,
Some of that is his.
Some of
Some of
that
that
is
is water
unassigned.
rights.
Committed to ponds.
And
Yes.
now it's going to be my next question. Do you
And-
know what that number might be?
I had hoped to know for today, because I asked Stephen Bloom to give me an updated number. But I know at the beginning of last year, we had 685,000. And since it's a good way to segue into this sheet that I just passed everybody. If you look at the top sheet, which is 16 and 17, which ends October the 1st, and 18 begins October the 1st. So last year, we had a budget of 498,000, of which we spent 219. So you could conclude that with our 685, we've added another 200,000, 250,000. However, we've been spending money on downspout drainage, which is over on the right-hand column. And that's still an ongoing program, but we have $989,000 on that one.
Okay, so you got about 800,000 and another 989.
800 and another
Yeah.
another
Without
800, yeah.
getting to specific numbers, about
A
2 million
Is right.
Roughly.
of that 4 million.
That's a good
plus
ballpark number.
Is kind of
A
allocated.
million 8 to 2 million is
Right,
already
correct.
allocated.
The reason why that's important
Yes.
is as Jack goes through his analysis, it makes a big difference what the starting number is for reserves.
Yes.
So his first cut will use the 1.374 million, obviously.
Mhm.
What I will ask him to do, if it's okay with him, do some additional runs. Again, given the amount of money, he may come back to say, by the way, at 1.3 million, you need to allocate umpteen thousands of dollars.
Right, away.
If we change that number to 2 million,
Yeah.
it gets reduced to this number, et cetera.
Yeah.
So without going too far,
I totally agree with that, but I thought that with the discussion we collectively
Sure.
had when we set up the reserve was, knowing we set it up so late in our history, that we were always going to have a shortfall. We never intended,
But, but.
I don't think you will.
But it seems to me that we're in a position, if Jack can provide the number to us, or the study can provide the number, to catch up, to provide enough right now to catch up, so that we
don't have the
then-
answer to that until Jack
Until
has
we
an
get the
opportunity to
numbers.
go through all the
Yeah,
numbers.
I would
but
love
don't
to
wanna
think
go
we
too
could, but I
far.
agree.
I don't want to go too
Yeah.
far with that, to say, yeah, let's allocate all of the
No, I understand.
to that.
I understand.
But other than
I'm gonna ask him
ponds-
to run a few different runs to say. if
but
you
other than
increase it to
ponds, I
this
don't know of
number-
anything that we're on the hook for.
Yeah, but, I mean, we talked about emergency reserves, like hurricane stuff, whether we need to put something aside for that. So there are a few things we may
Okay.
want to think about,
Yep.
leaving some money aside,
But
okay?
until we
Maybe.
get that study, I don't see any reason to move more money
No,
into
No,
that fund.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think.
Well, except that it makes us interest, doesn't it?
It's all making interest. It's
It's-
all
oh,
sitting in
always-
the bank
It's already,
account.
yeah.
Excuse
it's
me,
just
I didn't-
sitting in the
accounting
bank.
We're all
where
getting-
it is.
okay.
It just depends what pocket we put it in.
Yeah,
Plus, once you put it in, I think there are rules about how
Taking
you
it
can
out.
take it out.
Yes,
we
right.
probably are.
So,
Yeah.
there's some issues there, but
Yep.
Yeah, we're better off with it
we're gonna,
on the side
I'm
right
gonna
now.
ask Jack to make some runs that increase that 1.3
Yeah.
to at least 2 million anyway, if maybe 2.5, and see
Can
what
you
kind
do
of
that
numbers
under
we
the
come
table?
out
That's what they couldn't
with,
hear on
in
the-
terms of, hey, to catch up, we have to start allocating
These
this amount of money in
stupid
there.
women. We were gonna
So
tell you
we
before the
have some
meeting, forgot.
flexibility there.
Okay.
Okay, excellent.
Further questions on that issue? Nancy, how are we doing on catching up and paying the bills?
I think we're getting a little more caught up. Jason told me today Securitas is gonna go to a weekly billing system instead of a monthly. I'm not sure why they're doing that. Is it just accounting purposes, or?
It's something on the other end.
Okay. But we're getting closer and closer. I know Securitas was one of the big ones that we were behind on paying, and I'm always a month behind here. In December, we had 2 months of Securitas that we paid. So and one was actually from last September. So we've actually paid 1 month of fiscal year 2017 and this year. So my guess is at the end of this year, we're going to be over in that account, probably. So, and which is why we have a little bit of unassigned funds sitting there to cover things like that, because that excess from last year that didn't get paid to Securitas would have ended up in those unassigned funds. So we're slowly getting caught up. Are you getting the funds timely from, like, once we approve them, are you getting them timely back to you, the check to cover them?
I would say yes.
Okay. Okay.
As if you read my report on the CDD meeting, we're not alone. Apparently,
Yeah.
the Gateway has the same problem.
Yeah.
They're having real problems with Infomark paying their bills in a timely manner.
Well, and that's why I asked Jason if he's
Ours
getting,
has improved drastically.
if Jason's getting reimbursed timely.
Okay.
Because I think, what do you have, 90,000, is that what we?
Yeah,
you have set there?
that's the fund. The fund
Yeah,
is
that-
90,000, I think,
yeah.
that
That's
we
what
keep, that we replenish.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
If I may make a
Sure.
comment about that, when you say the CDD, we have been having significant issues about vendors getting paid. We have some invoices that were submitted the 1st of January, and they still haven't been paid.
Still not paid.
In the last couple of months, they moved to another headquarters. They were acquired by another company, and they have a new financial system. So they're learning policies, the systems, and I spoke to Bob Concord last night, and he said it will all be straightened out in the next week or two, that they'll be back
Okay.
to normal.
They'll be back on track.
Because I know the board asked that Stephen come to the next meeting and explain what the problem was and what they're doing to correct it.
And they'll be there.
All right. Nancy, anything further?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Everything's okay. Jason did follow up on my question about why those 2 electric bills were so high.
Oh, yes.
And basically, the fountains are that expensive to run.
Wow.
So it's probably a good thing we went to aerators instead of fountains, because they're running $500 to $900 a month for each set of
And the
fountains.
aerators are $100, and the aerators are actually better,
Yeah.
right, Bob?
More effective for pond health.
For
The
pond
fountains
health.
are merely aesthetics.
Yes.
Yeah.
You get a little bit of, oxygen because you're doing it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's not for pond maintenance, it's for appearance.
But can you imagine if we had those on every pond
Yeah.
at $500 to $900 a month
Yeah.
to operate them?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions of Nancy? If so, if not, we will move on. Jason, you want to come up and...
Microphone?
Yeah. And
Can you guys hear it? I can't hear myself.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Just introduce yourself, please.
Jason Olson, Castle Group. Okay, I just have a couple things, one of which Nancy covered. That was the follow-up on the fountains and what we found. Also, you may or may not have noticed, we did some sod replacement throughout the common areas, the tree line and Pelican Preserve Boulevard. This is all related to the stump removal. In order to proceed sooner rather than the next meeting, I did reach out to Phil to see if we could go ahead with this. The cost on this was right around the ballpark of $7,500.
I took the liberty of approving that expenditure in advance, but I think the committee needs to approve it. Unless you don't want to approve it, then I guess I'll have to open my wallet.
I like this down there.
How deep is that wallet?
Was that just on tree line? Just
Tree
on-
line in the boulevard,
Okay.
Yeah, and it seemed to me that was work that
it was
Had
about
to be
19
done.
pallets.
it had to be done. It was something that we would probably approve. Any discussion of that? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the expenditure of $7,500 for sod as described by,
I so move that motion.
so moved. Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Remember, it's 7,500?
Yes. Yes.
No,
He had
to
it.
put in the minutes.
He had
Yes,
it.
yes, $7,500, okay. Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Jason, anything else?
Just one additional item, and that is a damaged monument sign. Don't know the origin of the damage, but there is a section missing on one of the columns on the side that needs to be replaced. The only replacement company that I could find that does this was the installer, who is Lycan Sign Tech. The repair cost on that is, the proposal they gave me is $1,330.
What, where is this located?
It's, I'm sorry, it's the Prado monument sign.
Prado Monument.
Prado's, yeah, they're taking it.
Yeah,
That's not ours.
that's not ours.
That's it.
We don't own it.
I
Lennar
thought
did.
they conveyed this over with,
Huh?
I thought this came over with the other items that they did,
Not Prado.
Casella. Okay, well,
Prado,
that's-
right?
then I was given misinformation because I tried to bring this there first.
Prado's
Was-
not
was
come
Prado-
over.
Prado has
I
not
will
been
get
conveyed,
clarification
has
on
They're in
that.
the process of it, but it hasn't been
it? It hasn't
accepted.
been issued. So I,
We'll
if you-
wait.
if you would go back to
We'll wait.
them,
I absolutely will.
$1,300.
They're still
Sorry for
gonna
the
deny it.
misunderstanding.
Deny it, but that's $1,300 we may not have to spend.
And there was one other item that you guys had asked me for, which I do not have yet, and that is the ballpark number on the plant replacement. I am working on that. I followed up again this morning, checked my email. I don't have it as of right now, but I will send it over as soon as I receive it.
Okay, and where do we stand with regard to the evaluation of the bridges?
Actually, I got a phone call from Atlas. I did engage Atlas Engineering.
Okay.
That was the estimate that was $2,500.
Okay.
And they, a gentleman called me this morning asking for access through the gate because he was going to come out and, I'm
Start-
assuming, start the process.
Mhm. Okay. All right. Any-
So we should know that next month, at least what they're saying it's gonna cost.
I would certainly think so, yes.
Okay.
Securitas,
I'm sorry, Nancy?
oh, Securitas isn't going to be here today?
Ryan is on his way. He's stuck in traffic. He did not give me an estimated amount of time, but he is
If
due to
we-
be here.
I just have some concerns, and I talked to Jason about them already. I mean, I brought up 4 issues to him last month. One, trucks are still coming through the front gate. They're still coming through. One, they're letting construction vehicles in. I see people working back in Prado at 6:30 in the morning, by flashlight, no less, because it's still dark out. They're still not putting the little stickers on cars that are parked overnight. When I'm walking in the morning, they're covered with dew, so I know they've been there all night. And they're still they're still opening the gate and leaving it wide open at night for the exit.
We've sent 2 photos over.
I sent him
that you
2
provided
pictures
to
of
me.
that.
Is
He
it-
keeps
it-
promising to address these things, and they never get addressed. And in fact, she told me while we were sitting here that she left early one morning in the dark to go to the airport, and the gates were wide open. There, you know, we talked about actually making people go through the security to get out during the night, and instead, we've got the gates wide open, and they just don't seem to be responding. And I have, somebody at Pickleball came up to me and said, who do I contact when I see Securitas just parked someplace in the middle of the night? She walks about 1 in the morning at night. She says, they're parked up on the road to the golf course. They just sit there parked. And I guess my question to Securitas, do they ever have anybody, a supervisor, just drive through unannounced and see what's going on in here? Is there any kind of
Are those-
supervision of these
should
people
we
at night?
hold- Should we hold those questions for when Brian?
I think Ryan would be better placed to answer questions
Well,
as
I
far
think
as their
so, too,
policies, but I know,
but-
I know Ryan's done site visits to the gatehouse and things like that. As far as your question directly, I would have to ask him.
Well, I just kind of welcome this opportunity to talk a little bit without him here, too,
Sure.
to address some of these issues, because he just doesn't seem to be responding to them. He keeps promising to, and he never does.
Jason, who is Ryan's supervisor? Do you have access to him or her?
The last individual I was aware of, and that would have been Bob French that was there
Yeah.
before, he was the one that was training him, and because he was going to another position. As far as his direct supervisor, I don't know if that still would be Bob or not.
I think we need to find out just in case.
I can do that.
Yeah.
And then,
What is the policy on people golfing at the golf course? I mean, we always make sure the gate knows if I have guests coming in to golf. And one of my guests, I said, did they take your license or anything? And the comment from the gate was, they asked, do you need my license? Oh, no, if you're golfing, go right ahead. I mean, they didn't even look to see his name to see if he was on a tee sheet. Do they still get a tee sheet?
I couldn't answer the T sheet. I don't know specifically, but they
They are
certainly should. They
supposed
should
to
be
get
supposed to
checking.
get a
They should be
T-sheet.
checking everyone's ID. And I've covered this
Sure.
just recently again regardless of whether they have a pass or whatever. We want everyone's ID checked all the time.
I drove in a friend's car about 3 weeks ago, and I came to the gate, and I just said, you know, I'm Phil Measy, I live at 9296 Trieste Drive, and the gal said, and I said that this is a friend's car, so I don't have, and she said, do you need a pass for the next couple of days? I said, no. She said, okay, fine. She just waved me through. So,
Trudy,
so and that was, he at least took some action on that.
And when I do send him these items, I
Yeah.
do see a follow-up, I do
Yeah.
see, or I hear from the supervisor on duty or whatever, explaining away the problem or, you know, acknowledging that it was a mistake, needed to be corrected, this is what's gonna happen. But, at the same time, then we see it again.
Yeah.
and Trudy, do you want to relay what you just told me about your visitor's experience at the gate?
Do I need to come up?
Yeah,
Yes,
please, please do.
Hi, Trudy Fletcher, Trieste. My husband's son came to visit a couple of months ago, and he flew in and took a Uber and got in quite late in the evening. And when he came in, he says, I don't want to start any trouble, and I don't want to stir anything up, but what's with the people at the gate? And he said when he came in, it was an older gentleman that was very disheveled. His shirt was unbuttoned. He had a long beard that had food in it, and he was just very unprofessional. And he says, it's just not a very good impression when you're coming through that gate.
Okay. Yeah, I have been in fact, I failed to say I was going to say something about it at the Alliance meeting, that people need to be reporting these things, but they need to report them with place and time if they see things happening. I've said that at the president's meeting, but I think we need Ryan up here to give us some answers as to why these things are not being followed up on.
And there are instances where they've gone the other way. I had a vendor who came in 3 weeks ago who was denied access because he wouldn't give the guard his driver's license.
You and I talked about
Okay.
that.
Yeah,
Now, he came through today, no problem.
no problem.
So there was some follow-up there. I don't know if it's the same
Yes.
gentleman or not.
Yeah, and this is
Okay.
in the case of companies where the
Yeah,
company said.
Right.
company
Company
policy
policy.
is their drivers do not have to show driver's license, but they have a corporate ID with their picture on it to identify them.
Yeah,
Okay, and he offered that,
Yeah.
at least according to them.
Yeah.
That's what he did, but the guard would not let them in.
With, Bob?
So-
One comment relative to the T-sheet. Once the club went private, anyone's coming in for golf ought to be a guest.
Hmm.
And it ought to
Correct.
be handled,
That's true.
it ought to be handled under guest, not a T-sheet.
I agree, but
Okay.
the guard did not state, that's
Oh,
why
I see what
I
you're
call
No, you
guard all
asked
the
if they
time.
got a T-sheet anywhere. They shouldn't be getting T-sheets. That's
Then
all I'm saying.
they should
So
not
the
just say, are you
individual
golfing?
homeowner should be telling
They
the
should
gate.
be approved by myself.
Right, whoever
Who
brings
I
them as
already
guests.
called, and my guests were not, they didn't care.
They didn't care,
The
they
guard
just
did
let
not care, they just let them through. And yet I had approved them 2 days
That's
before.
all, I don't think we should be using T-sheets, that's my only comment. Anyone
Point.
coming in ought to be a guest, period.
I mean, at some point in time, do we need to let them know if they don't correct these things, that we will look at other
Oh, absolutely.
vendors?
Well, that was my
Yes.
next question,
Yeah.
is where are we on the contract?
It's been a while.
I will have to look and see what the end of their contract is. I don't know it off the top of my head, I
Because
apologize.
I think regardless, we need to bring it to their attention.
Absolutely.
But we also need to know when the end of the contract is, so we can have some good lead time. And I think most of the contracts have a 30-day notice or 45-day notice or something, and we can move on anyway. So,
And particularly for non-performance. I mean,
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
think
yeah.
we could, so, okay, well, why don't we hold that, and when Ryan gets here,
We could
Again.
ambush him.
ambush him.
Somebody else can ambush them this month. I felt like I did it last month.
Okay.
Jason, I have another question. You and I had talked briefly about the irrigation issue on Old Pelican, how it keeps needing repairs. And you sent an email regarding it could be $500,000.
Or more. I mean, to follow up on that, that's something we discussed at the president's meeting this morning. We are in the process of getting proposals from Toro, Rainbird, and Hunter, as far as if we were to go to a different system, what the cost and hopefully what the improvement, if any, would be.
Okay, and there should be an analysis of the different types of systems, not just
Right.
who that
That's what
vendor
I'm saying,
is.
if they're, because everyone thinks that the one now is outdated or isn't the best, but
Right.
so we're going to provide some options to that.
Okay. The other question would be, to your vendors, does it have to be done simultaneously with everybody, or could it be budgeted, one in 2019, one in 2020, and just do it in phases, if the cost is that much?
I don't know the answer to that. It's certainly something that I could make sure we find out.
Right.
But the way the system works now, I believe it loops through the whole property, so I don't
Who
know.
owns?
I was just gonna say, but I think doesn't the Master Association not own that system? Do we know
Or
that?
the golf course, one of the two.
The master irrigation system? Yeah, it's the community association.
It's a community association, I believe, that owns it. You may want to confirm that.
Yeah,
But I
no,
don't
it is.
believe that's a CDD asset.
No,
It's the,
I can
Well,
tell
I
you
mean,
it's
that,
not.
or communication might, okay, so you're
Yeah.
saying,
The only thing the
But
golf
we pay
course
the bills
owns
for it.
is the control of Pond 22 and the pumping up from the aquifer and the dropping down.
Right.
22 is not part of our pond system, not part of our lakes. That's a single standalone irrigation system controlled by the golf course.
could it be part of the asset allocation for,
Well,
In the
it would be
future.
the golf course, they own it. So it's an asset of the
no,
golf course.
no, I don't mean that. I mean, if we wanted, for future maintenance, it can't come under your,
Well,
Because we don't
again,
have
to study
if
if
we,
don't
if
own
we, I mean, we can put it as a separate item, but then you gotta answer the question about who owns it and
Who
who
owns
should
it?
be paying for it.
Based on
Yeah.
who owns it, you can't do it.
Yeah,
But
I
You
don't
know,
think.
I mean,
I
we
don't
can
think
always do an analysis. but I
In
don't
in
know
2
the
years, we're
number.
gonna own everything,
Yeah.
or 3 years, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't think we want to necessarily take that on at this point.
So right now, we don't own it, we just pay all the expenses related to it. Because
For the CDD part of it, right?
Okay.
I would assume.
That's correct.
Yeah, yeah. We pay the expenses for the CDD part of the system.
But the the CDD doesn't own that part of the system? We just pay the expenses? I'm confused as to who owns what.
And
And
the master irrigation, like the pumps and the big equipment, it's the Pelican Preserve Community Association.
But we
So-
own tracks within that with landscaping.
Right.
And we are responsible for those, keeping those things functioning.
That's
We
right.
don't own it,
Just as all
That-
the.
but we
individual-
maintain it and keep it
Just
functioning.
as all the individual neighborhoods, Nancy, don't own theirs either, but they have to pay for
Maintenance and
the
stuff.
maintenance.
but we're responsible, like, in our neighborhood for just the pedestal?
From the pedestal
So if the
in.
pedestal is dead, then it's the HOA that would pay to replace
Correct.
that.
Correct.
And that, it seemed to me, I had, a couple of three takeaways from this morning's president's meeting. The first one is that they are going to have somebody come in and do this evaluation as to whether we should be, what can be done to correct the system, or whether we should be replacing it, right? So,
The president's asked for that?
well,
Yeah,
they'd already
yes.
planned it. They'd
Yeah, I
already
mean,
planned it.
there's, with the irrigation issues that there are in a few of the communities, we want to eliminate the fact that there may be something wrong in the programming or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or, because there's a lot of people out there that think Javier is not doing it correctly. So we want to eliminate that,
So the HOA is the we.
or fix it if there is a problem.
Fix it.
So the HOA is picking up the tab for that, correct?
Yeah, that would be
That's
HOA.
right.
Okay.
That's the HOA, the master is.
The Master
picking up the tab for that.
Association.
The second takeaway I had was that these pedestals, each individual pedestal belongs to the neighborhood that it serves, and the neighborhood is responsible for maintaining it. And if they have a problem with it, they have to have their techs.
And in my personal opinion, that's where a lot of the breakdown happens.
And I think certainly there's an indication that that's where a lot of the problem is. So I know in my neighborhood, I'm saying to our landscape people, hey, what's the story here? Do you have a tech who can handle this pedestal? Because I think that's causing the problem, because some people are getting underwatered and some overwatered, And it sounds to me like that may be a pedestal.
But I thought Ameriscape had that responsibility for all the communities regardless.
No, no,
Not beyond the pedestal.
No.
no.
Nope.
Oh, we're talking, go from the pedestal to the home.
Pedestal to the
That's the.
Yeah,
okay.
Ameriscape.
But Ameriscape has it to the pedestal.
Controls the
They want to make sure that that
Okay,
water
that's
gets to that
consistent with
point.
what I thought, that's fine.
So,
Our existing system is a Toro system.
That's correct.
All right. And again, I'm not, somebody had mentioned that the Toro system is a multi-wire system. And that's what causes a lot of the problems that we have. Some of the other systems, and I'm glad that you're looking at these other systems, are like a 2-wire or a single-wire system. That should be looked at as to, and Toro does not offer, I don't think, a new
That's-
John,
updated.
we should be engineers
I was going
here.
to say,
Oh, okay.
but, I think this is not, we're not going to solve the irrigation problem
Yeah, the
here.
Toro technology we have today was old 15 years ago when it was installed.
Right.
So it's a good thing it's being looked at.
Yes.
I don't know what Toro has today. They might have something better that can compete.
And yeah, as far as the system, I couldn't answer that either, but I can tell you that all of the upgrades as they come available are installed.
But you're
to
looking
the-
at it.
Yeah, okay, they're
Yep.
looking at it, and I agree. We are not going to solve that problem today. I see Ryan has arrived. And Ryan, we frankly have just been having a discussion about the fact that there are many things being reported, lapses that we believe are lapses at the gate and among the security force. And we're told that you've been informed about these and no action has been taken on them. And we're quite concerned. Nancy, do you want to, or Jason, have you already told Ryan about the things that Nancy has reported?
Yes, absolutely. The things that, everything I get reported, I report over to Ryan.
But these things are not, and in certain cases, they've been reported a couple of times, and they're not getting addressed. And we want to know what's going on.
Like the exit gate being left open all night, specific things.
Okay, and then that's been within the last, say, 2 weeks or so, that's been left open.
I've sent Jason 2 pictures since the last meeting where we talked about it.
And I believe, I did have the supervisor speak with all the staff. The first time we received the photo about the gate arms being left open, what we've done is we have, basically the staff is saying they're forgetting around the 5 o'clock period. No excuse for all night, but they were having a hard time keeping up with traffic and remembering to do that. So we've created a reminder for them that will alert them to when the time is 5 o'clock, the gate arm should go down.
This is at 5 a.m. This is 12 hours later.
Right, that is not
That's
acceptable,
unacceptable.
and it should be resolved. And I will talk with the supervisor on site. What we can also do to look at to alleviate the staff from doing that is installing timers on the gate arms themselves. So they'll automatically go up and down at the appropriate times. Of course, that's something I'll look at and I will
But
resolve.
Some of the other, that's fine, but some of these other things are the discipline in the gate and at the guards. Nancy, why don't you mention a couple more of the things?
Okay, we talked last month again, and we've brought this up many, many times in the past. They're still letting construction vehicles in through the front gate. They're still letting construction vehicles in through, I'm not sure which gate, prior to 7 a.m. When I walk in the morning at 6:30, there's people working out there in Prado by flashlight. There should not be construction workers in there at 6:30 in the morning working. Last month you said sometimes they let them in 5 minutes early so they can be to their job site. Well, working at 6:30 is a little bit more than 5 minutes early.
Agreed. They should not be working before 7 o'clock. So I will make sure that I look into this and find out why they're being let in early, because it's been made quite clear to the guard staff that they're not supposed to be doing that. The only thing that I know of that could be helping the workers come in earlier, the construction gate, actual gate, the little fence there has been broken. Lennar has been working on getting that fixed. So it could be that some of the folks know this and they're coming in early before the staff member arrives. So that's something I can check on to see if that's happening.
And then also the vehicles coming in through the main gate. I saw one come up Pelican Reserve, up Cypress Grove, and then I don't know if he went to Prado or Casella, but he came in through the front, going back there to do work.
I do know that we have had several vehicles that when they come up to the front gate, they're asked to turn around, and then when they don't, they have to call the rover, and the rover has to then go find out where they are and talk to them about letting them know not to, when they're asked to turn around, to make sure they do that. I know the supervisor and the patrol folks have been making a list of the frequent offenders, if you will, and we followed up with the contractor or the supervisor, letting them know that that employee is disregarding the instructions from the gate staff. One of the things that we do run into frequently is there is no signage for the construction gate, and a lot of the vendors will use a GPS to get there, and it brings them in through the front gate. So I know that
Most
that
of these are the
also
same
hurts.
vendor, I mean, the construction workers are the same guys. Vendors coming to somebody's house would be brought to the front gate, but you got the same construction companies there day after day after day. They should know.
The same companies, absolutely, but not always the same individuals working. A lot of times they're subcontractors, things like that, other employees within the company. And I know that's a frequent concern from both the construction guard and the on-site supervisor about the signage and folks just pulling up not knowing where to go for the construction entrance.
Right.
The construction entrance manned, excuse me, is that manned for the operating hours?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it should be
It's
very
manned from
simple.
6
Nobody
to
should be in
6.
by 6:30 though. Just don't let them in until 7.
Well,
Whatever the
when-
time is.
If the gate's broken,
It's broke.
um,
But the guard's there.
no,
Guard
it's
doesn't
not.
get there
It's
till
not.
Well, that's what I just asked. Didn't you say the guard is there the whole time?
No.
At the construction gate?
Not
shows up
24
at
hours a
7.
day.
No, during working hours.
Correct.
And these people are coming in before working hours.
Yeah.
Before the guard
So
gets
He shows
there.
up at 7, but they've gone in at 6:30.
They've already gone in at
Oh, I thought he was the one that opened the gate.
No, the gate's broken. It's
The
open.
gate's broken, Bob.
Excuse me, missed that part. Critical.
And I did get confirmation
Which is
from
concerning
Lennar
that,
that they're going to be out this week to look at the items that are needed to get it repaired, and they are working on that.
How long's it been
the-
broken?
the that's good. The added concern that, is that broken gate open 24/7 right now?
Correct, it is.
So who's making sure other folks aren't wandering into the community at night through that now open gate that's not manned overnight?
We're having the construction patrol specifically go up there and check that area quite frequently to make sure that there's not a greater issue
That's not
there.
acceptable.
How long has it been broken?
It's been broken for approximately 2 weeks.
Why?
Yeah. Well,
And
that's-
Lennar is
that's
just going
Lennar.
there now?
They don't care.
It, we did ask as soon as it was noticed. I mean, we did report it right away. I'm not sure. what the
Jason, isn't
delay
that something we
was.
can fix by the Master Association and bill back Lennar?
Well, you can do a lot of things, but,
I still need the
Look
same
at that.
approval from Lennar, through the Master Association.
Yeah.
But if we haven't asked for it, let's ask for it, have them deny it. At least have it on record that they know it.
Is the gate
I
itself
mean, they're
broken?
gonna
Or
tell
it
me
sounded
that-
like you said the
that
fence
we
was
don't own it,
broken.
But I can certainly try now.
Okay, well, we'll just close the damn thing.
A gate fence.
Because
Then they're
the
gonna,
gate
then they're
is-
gonna get upset.
The gate is just a metal fence that's chained shut, isn't it? How can that be broken?
I would call it like a cow fence. To put it in perspective, it's a piece of fencing that is a physical gate that swings open and closed.
Right.
And it's come off the hinges are broken, and then it just can't be
If
opened.
we buy a
and
big
closed.
chain and lock it so they can't come in, somebody's gonna do something. When Lennar can't get their people in here, we will get their attention. If they're unwilling or unable to fix it, put a truck there, block it up, do with something, but get their attention. Don't be ignored.
Ryan, and without going into the details of some of these things, the problem that at least has been expressed here is that some of these things are being reported and it doesn't look like they're being followed up on. Now, obviously, the particular things we've discussed here, you have reasons for, but we expect that when there's a report, something gets done about it. It just doesn't keep happening. That the guards are, whatever you need, admonished in some way to make sure that they're not continuing to do things that they shouldn't be doing. And that's the concern, and that's what we ask, going forward, we expect that to happen. We have particular problems, and this one is one that I think we need to address if we can. But other than that, it's just continuing little things that keep happening at the gate that become problematic.
Okay.
And part of it, one thing we haven't mentioned since Ryan's been here is they're not asking for ID, like he
Yeah.
had somebody come in to golf, they didn't ask to see any ID.
they're
We had
good.
another complaint of somebody being very unprofessional at the gate late at night, looking very disheveled, clothing kind of a mess, and food in their beard and stuff, so, I mean,
Okay.
there's a lot of issues going on that we're
Yeah.
really concerned about.
Question, Brian. Does Securitas ever have a supervisor, and I don't mean the on-site supervisor, but you or somebody else that would come in kind of at random to check on what's going on?
We do. What I will set up sometimes is have a supervisor from a different location come over unscheduled and just stop in and do his own evaluation of the staff and the protocol, make sure things are being followed. So it's sort of a checks and balance for that. We also have some roving supervisors that we can use for that as well. And it's sounding like that's something I'm going to have to set up to, it sounds like there's more of the problems in the afternoon and the
In the
overnight
evening,
time.
actually overnight, yeah.
And I'll absolutely do that. And what I can also do too is I'll get a complete list of the concerns from Jason, have him email them to me. I will work on what I need to on my end, and then I'll reply back to him, and he could forward it on to you
Okay.
on how we resolve the issues.
Okay.
Yeah, as well as your audit. If you could do that for 2 months.
2
just see,
months?
you know, see if you're seeing the same things that we are, and if not,
Okay.
so be it.
Okay.
This-
We've had reports that some of the roving guards park by the golf course at night and just sit there.
They shouldn't be unless they're doing a report. Otherwise, they should be moving frequently. I do get the
Sure,
daily reports
but-
from the vehicles.
People who are walking around at night have noticed vehicles parked at the golf course.
If it's more than 5 minutes or something like that, what I would suggest is encourage those folks to report them to Jason.
Right, right.
And with like a date and time, so then I can follow up with, find out what happened, whether they were doing a report, maybe they were checking on something and the vehicle was there running,
Mhm.
something of that nature.
Sure.
But
Okay.
Well-
you have those devices now that check in at
Oh, yeah.
checkpoints at
Oh,
certain
yeah.
times.
Mhm.
And you're getting those reports on a regular basis?
I am, yes, I get them daily as far as weekly, and if it's something that you like, I can always forward those to Jason
Okay.
as a review as well.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
thing that, I thought this was kind of weird the other night, maybe this broken gate explains it. I just walked down to the end of my street about 11:30 the other night to see if sprinklers were on, and there was a car driving down the golf course along the cart path, but it was a car. It wasn't a golf cart. It was 11:30 at night, a car driving. Now I'm thinking, because that would have been coming from the Prado direction, it could have been somebody who came in through the back gate.
Okay. All right, suffice it to say,
It's
we've
so
got
weird.
to, we've got to, yeah.
Yeah, it's
we-
very
we-
disturbing.
We've, we've got to make sure that the discipline is there at the gate and among the guards to get some of these things done, and a list to Jason and follow-up would be very helpful.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Just as kind of a follow-up to some of the things we heard, would it be appropriate for whoever's going to go to the next supervisors meeting next week to make a point of asking the board to formally request that WCILNR get the gate fixed, that it's totally unacceptable to,
Chris, could you do that?
I'll be glad to bring it up during my time.
Yeah.
But I would think we could buy a chain a lot faster.
And it's,
Well, it
and
says
that
the-
gate part of it is convenience, because even some of the construction vehicles, if it's early, if they can come in off Colonial and come right in versus coming all the way down the gateway and back,
At least we can control them with the guard.
yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Say turn them around there, and then they
But,
can go in.
okay, so Chris, you'll take that message
Yeah,
forward.
I'm ready for my time.
Good idea, Nathan. Okay, we are on to the potential selection of a new member for the one open seat. I will have to say that I was, and I'm sure the rest of you were very gratified with the numbers of people, with the numbers of people who applied. In the past, we've had only one, or in a couple of cases, two. We had six, at least five of which are pretty impressive resumes. And I guess, I'm not sure exactly how best to approach this. I think that one possibility here is, since and maybe we ought to find out who knows whom, is to perhaps ask all of the candidates to come to a meeting so that we can meet them, and maybe even make an oral presentation of some kind.
Well, several are here today.
Oh, several are here, I recognize that. Well, several.
Not all, obviously.
One. Two, I'm sorry, two. Two are here today. Two are here today. And I know one told me that he would have liked to have come, but was, didn't know this was coming up and couldn't get here.
To that end, do we have to have it here, or do we have a little thing up at the town center, like a meet and greet, if you will, for lack of a better word?
Tony has frowned in the past.
I was gonna say, yeah,
Once you announce it,
yeah,
as a public meeting.
Well, we can still make it public.
Workshop, call it whatever you want, and we have to give them, 10 days' notice or something
yeah,
of that
something
nature?
like that.
Well, yeah, but we don't want the whole community showing up, we just want to have a.
Well, I'm
little-
sure the whole community would show up.
But if you make it public,
A few
that's all I'm
people,
saying.
a few people will show up, that's okay.
Well,
Yeah,
I like your idea, Phil, I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
yeah. Let me ask the question, does anybody, who of these people, do people know? I think we know.
Well, we all know Joe.
We know
We all know
Joe,
Joe.
because
He's here.
he's been here frequently, has done things for the committee. So we all know Joe. Are there others? Ron, I believe
I
one
know
of the
you
people.
Tom Shaner, he's a member of the Pelican Missouri Veterans Committee that I'm also on,
Mhm.
and he's very active with that, and seems like a really competent guy,
Mhm.
go-getter kind,
Well, the one fella that I know I would never vote for is Mike Blake. I'd tell it to him if he was sitting here.
Yeah.
But
Well,
other than that, we got 5 good candidates.
My feeling is that, Blake didn't even have, didn't even put in the
The
effort
interest.
Yeah, he just
to
said-
to provide the
Yeah.
information that we needed,
He's
so.
the only one.
yeah,
But I'd like to know the other,
he'd
the
be-
4 people I don't know, so I share
he'd
your
be scratch
your
anywhere,
interest
fine.
there.
Yeah,
I certainly know Joe, but I'd like to know Tom, Ariel, and James, and David, whatever the best way to do that is, I'm in favor of it.
yeah. My feeling in thinking this through, since we had such a, so many riches here, if you will, to ask people to come in, introduce themselves, and are there questions that, that people might want to ask them, that we could do at the next meeting. I should point out that this selection needs to be made at a public meeting, at a notice meeting. We can't,
Sure.
I got in trouble with Tony on the first time we did this, going into closed session, and that's.
Did we ever do that?
That is
a closed session?
We did, and it is for, I was then informed after the meeting that is forbidden, and that we had to go back and redo what we had done. So that is something we may not do.
What's impressive is they're all full-time residents.
Yep.
Yes, they
Yeah.
are,
Which is-
and many.
One of the
It's a good group.
And,
I'll tell you.
and all of them are from Cypress Grove, with, I guess, one exception.
Well, Bill, it was,
Huh?
I think it was.
All from New Pelican.
They're all from New Pelican.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is also, I think, very. very
Highly
favorable.
desirable.
Highly desirable. I think we need people from New Pelican.
And one is actually from Prado, which is,
They're hardly even
New
there yet.
Pelican.
We just got there, yeah.
I feel like I'm an old New Pelican now.
Could we hold a special meeting to do this, maybe 2 weeks from today?
And just to do that.
We could.
Just one for that, I
Assuming
guess.
we're all available.
And then we'll all just sit down, we won't have anything else cluttering our brains, and
Okay, I can't make it.
I can't either, I'll be gone.
Yeah, so will I. I'll be out of town.
Oh, well.
So if we're gonna do it,
well, then let's do it the March 8th meeting and keep everything else off the agenda if we can.
well, I
We'll do
don't.
it first.
Yeah, or do it first.
Do it first.
I don't think we have to
Done
keep
with that.
everything off the agenda.
Oh, okay, I mean, yeah, I didn't mean to have them all sitting here for the whole process.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Okay.
we can put them
Right.
up early on the agenda.
Yeah, and then,
Are there particular things that we would like them to address, or would you just like to ask questions?
Just, yeah, if they could do a less than a 2-minute summary of.
Put a face
why
to the
they
name.
want- Yeah,
Yeah.
why they would like to be on the board.
Yep.
Or the committee.
Face to the name.
And,
Okay.
Basically, that's it.
Okay.
And pertinent background perhaps,
Mhm.
that they
Okay.
feel is
Okay.
significant.
In the 8 or 9 years I've been part of this is the first time we've had this problem. And it's a
Yeah.
good problem.
No, it's a good problem.
It's
Good
a
problem.
very-
Usually we have to beat the bushes trying to get somebody.
But
Yeah, sure.
I should
Sure.
add, relative to the problem, that I gave these names to the President's Council this morning, because these are people who are interested in doing something for the community, and since only one of them is going to get this particular job, I suggested that these are people that we ought to be tapping into to work on, there's lots of stuff to be done in the community, and so their names are going in the minutes of the President's Council meeting, so that
Good.
we can.
Yeah, Chris actually sent the names out today.
Oh.
I think I saw an email from him where he sent a separate email with their names.
Yes,
on.
I had given him them and suggested that he send them to the President's.
I think it's already out.
Yeah.
You sent it out.
Did he? Good,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Well, I make a motion that we defer this to the first topic of our next meeting.
Okay. Well, I think it's a sense of the committee that we can do that. I don't know that we really.
I didn't know if we did or not, but
Yeah,
I
wasn't
will,
here.
I will make contact with all of the people involved. The two here obviously will know, and I will send out a contact to them, telling them what it is we'd like to do, and asking them to appear at the March 8th meeting.
try not to scare them away.
Thank you.
Well, I think one of the things they need to be asked, quite frankly, is,
Yeah.
why they're interested in this, or
Yeah.
anything they particularly need to know about how we do business.
Yes,
Yeah, because not many of them have been here to see us, other than Joe.
yeah, right. Okay,
Can, we're done with that
we'll do
topic.
that one, and I'd like to
Can
move
we-
on to, and I
Since Philip
promised.
is here.
I promised Ron that we would, at 3 o'clock, and we're pretty close.
3 o'clock.
Philip
There you go.
Rovner is here.
Philip is here.
And Jack Richards is here, so we would like to talk about the capital reserve study, so we're going to skip over the Cypress Grove
Okay, I'm
conveyance.
going to
issue.
introduce Philip, who's going to say just a couple of words. But in preparation to that, let me say, we only had one proposal that came in for our reserve study. Jack Richards was the gentleman who provided the proposal. Philip and I have met with Jack, well, on several occasions. And we feel pretty comfortable with Jack. And Philip, you come up, I know you had a couple of words. Before you start, just so, we already resolved the one issue before you got here about how much money we have in the reserves.
Good.
Okay, so we got that resolved already, so
Right.
we're making progress.
Great. It's really been a privilege to work with Ron on this committee to try to put together the reserve study the way that I think will be meaningful to the PPAC and something that'll be useful for your budgeting process. As Ron said, we've met with Jack rather extensively. We understand his methodology. We also understand the components that need to be provided by the PPAC to him in order to plug into his formulas. Part of what we're trying to accomplish is to make sure that we have a working document, a document that can be reviewed with some frequency, a document that can be a meaningful document and give the PPAC a validation for the numbers that are used in the budget with regard to capital replacement and also some assistance, if not directives, in the area of maintenance areas. So we're very conscious of those things, and we look forward to your approving this today, hopefully.
Philip, I perhaps missed it. Did you actually introduce yourself when you walked up to the microphone?
I didn't. I'm Philip Rovner, a resident of Carina at Pelican Preserve.
Thank you. Just so the
Good.
person who does the minutes has that information. Okay, thank you. Ron, how do you want to proceed?
Jack, why don't you just come up for a second, introduce yourself. Some of the people on the committee know Jack very well because he did the original, or one of the original reserve studies.
Yeah, I'm Jack Richards. I'm a resident. I've been here for about 10 years. I mean, it's gone quickly, but I did the first reserve study. And the issue to do a reserve study is pretty simple. You've got to measure everything. And what's nice about this is I did the entire reserve study for what I would call phase 1 and 2. That's everything down, Pelican Reserve Boulevard, okay? And I've measured all of those things, and I have those, and I don't have to do that again. And I have all the pricing, so I'm done with that. The issue that's kind of facing us is about the new area. I've committed that I can get done all the measurements and all the pricing and everything, so we can get down to a decision type of document in a month. That means I got a lot of work to do. But once it's done, I can then go in, and by the way, Ron, thank you much. I looked at these numbers you're reading off. I don't have a problem at all, it's okay. But there's a lot of work. My background, by the way, I'm president of Condo Reserve Economics. I'm an economist. I did this in the business environment for Case Company. Anybody ever hear of Case Company? Case Tractors? If you're a farmer, how about backhoe loaders and rods? I did all the economics for that company. I had 20 years where I set production schedules. This is a supply chain issue. That's exactly what it is. 101 supply chain. How much do I have to produce to take care of a future requirement? Because we're talking dollars investments, you need a financial program. I am a programmer also. And so I have developed this program, and I have done it almost 80% of my entire career. And since after I retired, I started doing this. And I've worked with Phil before, and he's gone through this. These guys are gonna come over and camp out with me pretty soon. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. I can generate a number for the old Pelican relatively quick. This is a case of getting out there, measuring everything, get the prices and everything else. The one thing that did change, before we had all these manuals, you'd look on a page, you'd have to go through all this pricing. All that stuff's online now, no more manuals. But what's really, I was the first person to ever use it. Now you go out there and it just comes out and it's detailed down to by square footage, it tells you age and everything else. So from my standpoint, I really enjoy working with it, but the data, I want accuracy. I've had to shut down plants. I've had to tell people, I used to have to deal with manufacturing, marketing, sales. If you've ever worked with a large company, every one of those units have a different strategy. So I've got too much time. I will tell you that I've enjoyed doing this, developing the program, and so that's my background.
Good, good. Philip basically agrees with this. We feel very comfortable working with Jack and his methodology, and I'm very confident that the final product will be something that you all will be able to use, and we can use into the future as well. Okay, so we've had a lot of discussions about that.
What's the question?
Updates.
What's the question?
So before we get to the bottom line, I have a couple of things for Chris. A couple of things that we're going to need. One of the key issues is inflation factors. Okay, and things like, for example, do we have cost information? I know Palazzo was just paved last year, I guess it was. When
We're still paving.
Yeah, do we get that information? How much Lennar/WSI paid to do things?
Yes, sir.
Because, I mean, Jack can go through this online stuff, but if we know actual numbers that were used here, would be helpful.
On the conveyance
Okay.
packages that are turned over to be accepted
Right.
by the board, they actually provide a bill of sale and what was transferred, because it has to go onto that books as an asset.
But Palazzo's never transferred, that's private.
Plaza's private, yeah.
So with
Yeah.
Palazzo,
But the
no,
Tractel and
but
Casella,
bill of
all that,
sales,
that was just
number
done
of
as
feet
well.
of stormwater pipe, number of
Okay,
feet
so-
of utility facilities.
Okay, so we could need, I don't know, do we work through you for that, or Danny, or
It's
whomever?
probably easier just to get it from us.
Okay, how do we do that? Just talk
ask
to you?
me and
Okay, good.
Give it about a week and we'll pull it together.
Good. Inflation numbers, one of the key things is looking at future costs, so you need to kind of do an inflation analysis. That's
That I
a
don't
financial
have.
thing Go ahead, you were gonna say something?
That I don't have.
Oh, yeah, but that's
Well-
gonna come from Steve Bloom.
I can do that.
Well,
Isn't that something Jack does?
Jack's-
well,
yeah.
yeah,
See, that
no,
was
Jack
Jack.
can come up with that. He's like,
I
you
can
know,
do the inflation
I would think
numbers, the
so.
costs, the
Okay.
investments.
He's got it,
Okay.
he's got it. So, based on that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Well, now-
Oops, go ahead.
Just before we get to a motion,
Go ahead.
I think you ought to just say something about the fact of, that you attempted to get other vendors to do
Oh.
this. You know, we're talking about a contract here that's gonna have to be approved with only one bidder. Chris, I don't know if that presents a problem for you, but.
I can tell you it's not unusual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
I mean,
well, all
yeah,
right.
Chris and I have communicated about that.
Yeah.
He can approve it. It's below the 10,000.
It's Florida, that's not unusual, Phil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm not saying it's
Not an issue.
unusual, I'm
I've
merely
had-
saying that
Yeah.
it's something that, you know, we're not normally supposed to do.
Right. I mean, I know Chris has made a
We
valiant effort
actually,
to advertise this.
Besides the legal advertisement that you're required to put in, we also put it on the Demand Star system, and I also made personal solicitations and emails to special district services and 3 other firms that do that type of work. And I was kind of surprised that we didn't get a response. And the only thing I came up with to streamline, if it's 10,000 or over, you have to go to the board for a contract, which was the cost. And I said, well, if you lower your price by $5, I'll just give you a purchase order tomorrow, and you don't have to go through the board.
Yeah,
But we did a pretty thorough solicitation, and I actually had a couple people through FASD, Florida Association of Special Districts, that said they were interested, and then when I sent them the solicitation, they didn't respond.
Yeah, I had personal contact with one of the vendors, GAB, who did Gateway Greens Reserve Study, and I spoke with them, and they were interested, and made sure they had a copy of the solicitation, and I got an email back a week or 2 ago saying they weren't interested any longer.
Okay, give us the
Okay,
motion.
I would
So-
accept your motion at this point, Ron, and then we can have any further discussion we need to. So you want to make the motion?
I move that we approve the contract to, what's your actual name of your company again?
John, oh, Condo Reserve Economics.
Economics, and I think your bid is $9,900?
95.
Right, 95. Now I know where the fight.
That we
It's even
approve
better.
it For $99.95?
I second it.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nope.
Oh,
I would-
I'm sorry,
I would
I
like to
didn't
say
see
one-
that you,
Oh, I'm sorry.
did you ask, I'm sorry. I
Go ahead.
missed
I
your-
thought this was where we would have some
Oh.
more discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
thought
that's
we
what
had
I
it
thought too.
already.
I didn't see you put
Speak
your
now
hand
or
up.
forever hold your peace.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Nancy, I apologize. I didn't see you with your hand up.
Jack, I was on the committee.
Right.
When you came to us the first time.
Right.
And we, I don't know how, I don't think we went through a solicitation. I think you were just known to us, and we picked you, and we got the supervisors to approve. You were doing it at that point. After you did the work and we got the report, there were some things that we talked about that really, from what we're doing in Pelican, weren't things that the committee thought we should necessarily have to reserve for, so we dropped some items off.
Right.
There were some other things that we talked about, like the reserve for the roads and that kind of thing. And I know in talking with Ron and Phil, that they were things that they were gonna talk to whoever the bidders were about, maybe an approach that might have been different than what you did the first time. Has all of that been covered with you?
I certainly, I know exactly what you did. I know the changes. I got it from Ned, okay, when he was here. And I was concerned about it, and I actually had an email from Phil, because he had some questions. He's gone through the system quite a bit. I guess the issue I have is that you need, it's a calculator. This is nothing more than a financial calculator. And all the numbers are, it used to be catalogs, but now it's, you get it online. We now have the ability to go back, and for those things that you do, I would call it maintenance, things you do.
Right, but some of those things we thought that they would be something we'd typically be able to expense in a year rather than to reserve for
Well, what the program does is it takes it and it says, rather than for the whole time, it'll tell you a number that you should do every single month, for every single year, but it cuts it down to maybe 15% of the amount of money, so you'll still see a flow that you need. And if you could, whatever you expend, you're gonna expend on it, okay? But I guess this is a good point. I know that you got the reserve study and had a lot of questions. When it's all said and done, I would like to come back and explain what's happening inside of it. I mean, if you don't do that, then it's another piece of paper. And if you understand it, then it makes a lot of sense. So I think it would be wrong for me to just go out, do the reserve study and mail it back to you.
That was very helpful when you came back and explained it the first time.
Right.
And answered some of the questions then, and we still asked, I know, for some changes.
And I would like those, because every time I do something like this, I learn something, okay? And the one thing that you need to understand is you always have surprises. I mean, and they can be big surprises.
Well, the big one between then and now was obviously what happened to the economy. I don't think anybody could have predicted that, so.
Actually, I use pressure cycles, and right now it looks like things are going great, but I can't wait to do I do this every month, by the way. It takes about 2 days just to update all the numbers. But the one thing you can't have is you just can't have 30% tax. You just can't. And not so much for you. I didn't realize that you had a tax-free system here. You don't have to pay taxes.
Right.
Condos have to pay 30% tax on the money that they make in their interest. That's a lose-lose position. So certainly I've looked at bonds, tax-free bonds. I don't know, I am now going to try to find out exactly how you got away with having a tax-free category. So that's,
Okay.
The first time, Nancy, we didn't have a reserve. That's what we were talking about,
We
formulating
started out
it.
with no reserve.
Yeah.
And this is a municipality as opposed to a condo. so,
Understand.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But I heard some really good numbers here today. And so, I
Okay.
mean, my concern coming in, I mean, I can almost spot these things right away. I feel really good about it.
Okay.
Okay,
Any,
that's it. I just wanted to.
any further discussion? Nancy, again, I apologize to you.
Oh, no problem.
I have one quick question, and Nancy somewhat brought it up, and you sort of phased over it. Do you or do you not take into account continuous maintenance on that item?
By the way, I follow the Florida code. It's condo reserves because it's really designed for condominiums. But in this, where I get the price now, they actually show a maintenance item, but it's not just by year. It gives you what you should be doing every single year, so you have a number, but your maintenance will be whatever you spend on it. But it's a planning number. So
Not necessarily a reserve number.
well, in my system, it's a reserve number, but it's identified as a special one. Okay.
What we do with it is what we decide to do with it.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you saying it's gonna tell us approximately what we should be spending each year to keep the asset maintained?
It'll tell you based, and let's say the one that I looked at yesterday, it was a small item, but it was a item that when it got down to it, it was something like $4,000 a year. $4,000 a year, 2,500 people. Oh, it was just the repair of sidewalks. But if you take the number of people that we have, it's the equivalent of, you see on the driveways, whatever, it's $7 a person. I mean, they're small numbers, but you have a number and you can follow it. I'm a detailed guy in numbers. I won't move off of a number unless I can do that.
Let's take the sidewalks, you
Yeah.
brought that up.
Excuse
These
me.
sidewalks are constantly repaired.
Well,
We're negotiating the thing
Yeah,
here.
let's
We're trying to make a vote and move.
Go ahead, Bill.
Go ahead, John. Ask
Well,
the
they're
question.
constantly repaired when it's needed, as opposed to totally replaced.
Oh, I'm not, see, that's what I'm saying. This does not do a total replacement for these. There are, I think I saw maybe 8 or 10 items that gives you a number that would probably be an estimate what you would come in on average for any 1 year.
repairing.
It's repair, but it's in the fund.
It
okay?
will give us a maintenance number.
It will give you a relative maintenance number, that's exactly what it is.
Okay, John, are you satisfied with that?
We've spent many hours talking about that specific issue with Jack,
Jack,
so
okay.
I feel confident we got it,
Okay.
okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the
Aye.
motion?
Aye.
Aye.
It's approved 6-0. Okay.
Thank you, now I have to go to work.
We're gonna skip to Pond's work
Thank you, Jack, appreciate your
report,
time.
because Bob has to leave a little early.
Wait a minute, I have to say this, I've never come to this meeting before. I go to my one where I live in Pelican, but I'm coming to these meetings from now on. I apologize for not being
Wait till
here.
after your contract is over.
Bob, you wanna?
Okay, yeah, we got a couple of, well, before you even start, I get a little frustrated at times, and I know you sense it, but we're not here to engineer it.
Yes, I understand.
The engineering part is taking place there, and if there's questions, they should go to him separately or something. But we shouldn't be hashing out the dotting of the i's and the crossing of the t's in this meeting.
Yes and no, because we cannot communicate directly to Ron.
Sure you can.
No, we
Send it
cannot.
to Diane, and she sends it out. We
Why don't
absolutely
have a
can.
Dialogue, we can't have a dialogue in.
Yes,
could-
you can.
But you can make inquiries. But we can't be talking about every little sidewalk repair and how much money it was, $7 or $8.
My question
but I
had to
understand
do
his-
with
his
how he
issue
was.
is-
I understand all the
reserved
issues,
his
but there's a time and place to do it, and I don't
Yeah,
think it's here.
Okay.
We
okay.
got, we got,
We got.
we got.
Okay, first of all, the catch basin and junction box, head wall, and end section work that we did as a result of Irma is finished. I have asked Tetra Tech to give us they've already done it. We're doing now not only Old Pelican, but all of New Pelican. And we're going to have a master number of these types of events. And then we're going to do X number per year cleaning on a rotating schedule. And we may have to, depending on what the number is, we may have to go out for bids. We may not, since it's a yearly contract. But either way, I'll be bringing it back to us to look at it, because it's going to be about 50 grand a year. And as far as I know right now, Tinkle's starting to do something like this in Gateway, because they haven't done anything on this, in this regard. Conveyance issues. We still haven't conveyed anything, as far as I know. Has track L been conveyed yet?
No,
No,
no, it
and,
has not.
Tony just issued another legal memo, and I put it back on the agenda for the 15th.
Okay.
And there's a few things they need to sort out. I think
So-
they're getting close.
So this keeps dragging out, and we keep really upsetting Lennar, but sooner or later, I mean, we don't have any issues that I know of with track
From
L.
Pond's
It's all,
perspective.
well, even the committee. I think the only thing is
Oh,
now
okay,
Tony.
Okay.
I think Tony is the only one that has an issue.
Well,
But-
I think that Joe has pointed out a couple of places that we should probably have considered to be, items that should have been on that list, but.
But we have said before, and I think with Joe and with Tetra Tech,
Yeah.
that anything that we still consider to be ours that's not Lennar, we're going to fund.
Yeah.
It's not that much money.
I understand that, Bob.
But I want to get the sense of PPAC. My sense was, if it's still a looming issue, we'll do it. End of discussion. It'd be less than 10 grand. But we collectively, PPAC, I don't believe has any more issues with track L conveyance. That's not Matarita 2A and all that
That's
other
a
stuff.
significant statement, because on the 15th, I'm guessing they're gonna end up voting for this, based on what
Possibly,
Tony said.
if they've
I
satisfied.
suspect.
If they satisfy Tony.
Yeah,
Well,
but
Tony
from
still
our
has some comments,
perspective,
and I think Lennar was turning into they're fairly minor, but
well,
we'll let it hash it out of the
Yeah.
board.
okay. But from our perspective.
From our perspective,
okay.
we're out of it now. It's whatever the board
We're
wants,
okay.
as far as I
May not
know.
be happy,
Yeah.
but we're okay.
Yeah, I think we're probably okay. The one place where we may not be okay, but I think the board needs to hash this out, and Tinkle is getting into it, and that has to do with construction practices.
Ah,
There is.
I know Joe's brought that
There
up
are
a
some
few times.
real problems that Joe has identified.
Quality of concrete and all those kind of
Quality
things, yeah.
concrete,
Yeah.
and how the concrete is put down, and what their construction practices are, and the future problems that may generate for us. And I think, that's one, I'm not quite sure how we resolve it, but I think the board has got to get into that.
Yeah, and simplistically, you change the operating permit criteria. But I mean, we're done. We're built out from
Yeah.
that perspective. It's
We
too
may not
late
be
for
able
us.
to do anything.
Whatever we do, we're done.
Yes.
Our community's out of it.
All right.
We got a letter on January 13th, and everybody got copies of it from WCI. Fundamentally, this is one of these ones where they're trying to stick it to us, in my opinion. They're requesting a transfer of the ERPs for the conservation areas and the conservation easements. So they've sent a letter, and it says in bold type, with this notice, WCI has completed its requirement and will no longer be maintaining these areas. Well, that's really nice of them. That's a little bit different than saying we've accepted them. So I made 2 pitches to the board that says not to accept them until the 1st of October of next year. And if they just get unmaintained, so be it. I don't know how that'll be resolved. But that's between Tony and the board right now. I don't think we should accept them. Just because they write a letter saying they're ours doesn't mean they're ours. When you throw the ball, you got to catch it. With respect to the areas in Carina Phase 2 and our, not Carina Phase 2, Casella Phase 2, and our island, if you will, in the flowway. So we've had some forward progress here. Instead of always being told, no, we're not going to do anything, and everybody did it right, they are now going to take another look at this because they've made some mistakes, they being WCI and R. 24 homes in the Carina neighborhood are going to have some major work done in their rear yards to make the berm and their lawns compliant to the permit. So there's a lot of work that's going to be done back there. And I don't know if this came up to the presidents today because this is relatively new. But along with that, either Waldrop, I believe it is Waldrop, is now going to look at doing something about that island, depending on what the cost is and whether they can get the equipment out there. But it's not a dead issue is all I want to make sure we're aware of. Matarita, Phase 3, drainage, road improvement turnover. Ponds, well, I gave everybody a copy of this. Ponds will not have any more issues with that particular conveyance once we get past Track L. Tetra Tech's done a good job of outlining everything. We had concerns. They have all been fixed. And we are now in a position where whenever that comes up, we should be good with it. Okay, I talked about extreme divers and coming through with a new board memo. Got that done. And everybody's got the financials for 16-17, which is now a closed year. And as soon as Stephen Bloom tells me what our pot of gold is, I'll make sure that everybody knows it. Okay, the district is going to be installing some staff gauges on all of the weirs in all of Gateway, including us. And we have asked that when they have the surveying company out there and they're putting these gauges in, to have 4 staff gauges put in ponds in Pelican. 2 will be in Basin 6. They will be at ponds 12 and 19. 19 is up at the town center pier, and 12 is Monticello and Toscano. And we've asked for 2 staff gauges in Basin 2. One is on pond 20, which I think is either Portofino Bellagio, and the other is on 36, which is out in the Carina Solera neighborhood. So once we get those in, then our monthly supplier, maintenance supplier, pond supplier, will record the data. So we'll get a history year-round of what is the depth of our water as we go forward.
And why is it when we only need them in
As long as you got one in the basement, we're going to have 2 in each basin, as long as you have one. And then we can couple that with the data we're going to get off of the weirs. So we'll have a pretty comprehensive, view of what's going on with the ponds. I have asked Torba, the golf course superintendent, to explain to me the dynamics of what he does with his irrigation pond. When the water level is high, does he have the ability to put it down in the aquifer, and how much will it handle? Because I know they bring it out when they need it, and I hope this is going to be a 2-way street. Just have questions right now, so I'll have answers hopefully in the next report, so I can tell you about that. And that's about all I've got for ponds today. We had a good meeting at the Residents Alliance. Our aeration is ongoing. We've had some problems with getting the electrical hooked up only because we had some, who's going to pay the bill? Did we get it in the right account? But Chris has been working with us, and I think we're getting there. Gateway has been working for the past 7 or 8 months on a pond that is being maintained biologically rather than with other chemical agents. Been working closely with Elle, and we all have and Tinkle, we all have the same concern. We want this stuff to work, but how do you measure it, and is it quantifiable, and who's going to do the quantification? And Ernesto de la Vega at Pond Watch is totally on board with it now. He loves the before data, and we'll check the after data, so that we know whether we're really getting a pig in a poke, or this is going to be a great thing for our community. So that project is moving forward. Downspouts continue to go along. The next two areas to be done are Portofino, Bellagio, and one other, and I can't remember who it is. And when we finish that, then we are finally moving into the Cypress Grove neighborhoods. I don't know if anything's new on the bond fund, Nance. I haven't checked on that, but we're trying to get that bond fund finally closed out. I know we're getting close.
Well, regardless, there'll be no more money for ponds.
No, I know that. I'm just worried. I'm worried I spent too much and have to give it back. Really, that's my concern.
They won't let you spend more than what you were allocated, I don't think.
Well, what I was allocated, I think we gave me more in allocation than we had. That's my concern, because WCI's coming in late to claim. We spent down to a certain level, and we didn't expect WCI to come up, and they came up greater than what we were looking for. But that's a
What,
checking account balance number.
what the board approved is the cap for you.
Yep,
What,
890,000, I think.
I can't remember now, it's close to 900, but anyway,
Yeah.
what was approved for WCI Lennar, they may have come in and asked for more. They won't get more. They may get a little less than what they asked for based on,
Great.
so.
But it hasn't been resolved. It's still,
Well, we can cross this off the list, no. It hasn't been resolved. WCI Lennar has not responded to Chris's letter. I talked to Chris earlier, there'll be some kind of follow-up on it.
okay. We'll all be glad when we lay that to rest.
Yes.
And the last thing is WCI Lennar has yet to respond to us with our request to bring the Prato Pistola homes up to the standard that we wanted to have on downspouts. And this thing's been going on, month and month and month, and they still haven't done anything. And I don't know how to get them off the dime.
Even though we're willing to pay for it.
Yeah. And they've said they'll do it. And having said all that, nobody does it. And we keep making inquiries. I've talked to Caldwell again last month. He wanted the data. I sent him all the data again. But they haven't done the first home. So I'm not sure where we go with it. Usually I'm pretty tenacious about this stuff, but okay, that's all I got.
Any more questions of Bob? Nancy, since we got into that, anything more on bond?
No.
Okay. With regard to Cypress Grove conveyance issues, I think Bob covered it. I'd like to just thank Joe again for all the work he so far has done
Hear, hear.
for us. It's been yeoman service. He's identified lots and lots of things that need to be repaired, many of which we're gonna end up having to repair. That's the bottom line, but he's also identified this construction practices problem, and that one is not resolved as yet, in my mind. And it's something that we've got to make an issue of with the board, I think.
So, could I have some documentation from the city on that?
Yeah, Joe, why don't you come up to them?
Joe Schofield, Karina. And before I get into that, I have one comment. We were talking about Securitas and the construction trucks coming through. I brought this up to the attention of PPAC and Gateway in the past. It would be really nice to have a sign at that roundabout on Cypress Grove Boulevard and Karina Prado, that roundabout in that area. There are two no construction truck signs on the exit side of Matarita and the exit side of Karina at the first Karina entrance. And it'd be great to move those, what I call extra signs, on an exit side of the road down to Karina Circle at that roundabout, so that these trucks that do come through and get lost don't go down through the Karina neighborhood. It'd be an easy fix to do. It wouldn't cost anything other than digging a ditch, pulling the two signs out and putting one in. And if you're going to pull both of them out, it'd be great to put one on my street, Julia. But anyhow, I want to just bring that to your attention again. Another thing, you're going to be
Joe,
talking...
excuse me, before we leave that, do we have anybody that can do that for us, Chris?
I'll have to check and see, and, you know, because they're Lennar signs.
They don't know. Just go and move them.
Yeah, right.
Really? I mean, come on. I'd always ask for forgiveness rather than permission.
Well, that's you.
All right, Joe, call me. We'll go do it together. I'll get a
I don't
shot.
know why they put them on the exit side of the road. They have one on the
That's a
entrance.
simple one. We just go
But
do it.
I guess they think the truck drivers will go in the back way anyhow.
Okay.
One other thing I want to talk about, I know you're going to be talking about the GSCDD meeting. Those two areas that I identified that were not fixed, still are not fixed, and I hate to think that we're going to have to pay to do it. I accept that. But the Lennar attorney also made a statement that all necessary work has been done. And I really disagree with that. And I'd like to just take a few minutes because I have the building and construction codes here from the city of Fort Myers. This is chapter 102. And it says, "It shall be deemed unlawful for any contractor, either certified, registered person, or any other entity to violate provisions of the code of the state statutes, whether or not referenced in this particular article." And it states further that they should be following the codes of the city. Willful or deliberate disregard and any violation of applicable building codes or laws or regulations of the federal government, the state, or the municipalities or counties thereof is an unlawful act. And that's where I'm talking about permits and the type of construction that was done. And I think it's incumbent upon our group here to ensure that the Gateway group understands that and would instruct Chris, who takes his marching orders from those folks, to probably further follow this up and make sure that proper permitting was done and construction practices were done. Pavement repair and restoration from the City of Fort Myers technical specifications, section 02575, goes on to state that all streets and road repair in accordance with standard details unless otherwise indicated on drawings, which we have not seen, but I have typical drawings the city puts out on construction of roads, sidewalks, and curbing, which is what we have in issue. And it says replacement pavement or roadway surfaces cut or damaged in equal or better condition than should be replaced and in better condition than the original provided. Further,
But Joe, that's why we had the engineer out there.
okay, well, I didn't have these.
Well, he didn't have an
particular
ip with it. I mean, I don't know what you want us to do
Well,
if the engineer didn't agree.
I think what, somehow, it should be stated to the GSCDD that by not requiring WCI Lennar to furnish documenting proof that they have done the construction properly and properly permitted it, they're in violation of the state law.
Hold up, what makes you think
And-
they didn't?
The pictures I took and the physical evidence I saw
That's a
when they did
different
the
question.
work.
That's a different question. We can't accuse them of something that we don't know they didn't do. And our own engineer was out and
Well, I'm
looked and
not
said they
wanting to
shouldn't be
accuse them.
fixed.
What I'm asking them, I think what we should do is request that they provide that data to us. They state they furnished all applicable documents. I don't think they did, and I
Why?
think we should request
Why do you
that.
think they didn't?
I haven't seen anything. I haven't heard anybody state that they furnished any of that type of information. I haven't heard it at Gateway. I haven't heard it from here. Chris, have they furnished that type of information to you?
I would say no, and there was a meeting with the permitting folks over at the city, and one of the questions we posed is whether they should have pulled a permit for that sidewalk repair, and they said they should have.
Yeah.
They also said that for a long time they've been trying to work with Gateway and been no success on their inspection and that because of the non-response. So they've kind of operated in their own, and our district engineer inspection seems to be operating alone without coordinating with them. Maybe they're used to working with the county, but it's been a little different. So I don't have a solid answer for you on that. They're discussing it right now.
Well, I'm going to let this rest. My concern is that if this repair work is accepted, we are in essence going to be committing the taxpayers to paying for work that should not be their responsibility. And I think a very strong effort should be made to force Lennar WCI to comply with the state and city and county laws. And I'll leave it at that. And thank you.
And I think that's something that we should bring up at the meeting, at the upcoming meeting.
I think Mr. Tinkle will be.
I think he will too. I think
Yeah.
he will do it, and Joe, I would encourage,
I will do that.
do that.
I'd like to make one comment. Mr. Tinkle made a comment to Tetra Tech about, geez, do you get permits for any of this type of work? And the answer was, well, probably not. And it would really bog City Hall if everybody tried to get the permit. To me, it's not a matter of whether everybody does it or doesn't do it. It's a real matter of black and white. I'm an engineer. I'll draw the line in the sand and say it's right or wrong. You get a permit if that's what the law states. If you don't get a permit, you've broken the law. And I think that's really the point. It's not a matter of, well, we'll just look the other way because that's standard operating practice. That's not an acceptable way. I used to have a sign in my office that said 99.9% is not right. And it says, for every million airplanes that take off every day, if 99.9% land, how many don't?
Okay, thank you. I think you got the picture on Cypress Grove conveyance issues.
So, can I just ask you
Sure.
a question? Is part of the reason we think maybe they're not meeting construction standard is because of the damage to the curbings and things that
Well,
maybe
no,
shouldn't be
it's that
happening?
Joe has observed what they're doing to correct the things that they were told to correct, and he has observed that they're not doing it properly.
The standards require a lime rock bed before they put concrete on. That's why the concrete broke on the sidewalk. There's no
Okay.
underpinning, there's no surface for that concrete to lay on. So any type of a truck that rolls over that will break that. Again, I mean, it'll happen the first time a truck cuts the curb short, it's going to break. And then we're going to have to pay to fix it. Or somebody's going to trip on that broken concrete, and then we're going to have a lawsuit.
And
Has
we-
the district ever inspected a concrete installation to see if it's in compliance before they do
I
it?
doubt that. I mean, it's all coming from the same batch place, and I guess it would be a question to pose to the district engineer, that are they following the city of Fort Myers standards and making sure when they're doing that construction inspection, is it done?
But we're the ones that give them their marching orders, right?
Well, they do the inspections.
And have we asked them to inspect?
Well, they, of course, inspect all the communities during construction for the turnover. It's their punch list.
I'm not hearing that we asked them to inspect it.
Oh, yeah, that's part of what they do. According to the permit criteria manual, the district.
I'm not getting the answer. We haven't asked Tetra Tech specifically to go out and watch some of these concrete installations
I don't
since he
think so.
complained. I didn't think so either.
I
And I
don't
think we
think
got to
so.
do that if we want them to do it.
Yep.
And we don't know how
on their
many
own,
of the
obviously.
existing roads maybe didn't meet those standards either then.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what the
Which is-
implication
Which
is.
is my
Yeah,
question
That's the
about
implication.
Bigger concern.
crumbling things that make us suspect
That's
maybe
right.
they weren't done
That's
right.
Yeah.
And there is a difference between how old Pelican was constructed versus new Pelican.
Nobody
I
has
agree.
any idea what was done in
The
old.
old
Yeah,
Pelican.
but at least we know it's been 15 years and look at it. Well, it's not too bad,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, when you
Who
think
knows
of all
what
those
the newer
construction
part is
trucks
gonna
that
look
have
Comment I
traveled.
made, if you drive through new Pelican compared to old Pelican, to me, and it's just my observation, there's a big difference between the gutters in the streets. The gutters in Old Pelican Preserve are much better shape than new, and it should be
The
reversed
opposite.
from that.
Yeah.
Could we take a sampling? Order an engineering, come out and take a core sampling and determine if it's right or wrong?
I have some concrete. I'd be happy to send it to a lab. Probably cost about $150, but we certainly could.
We ought to take the mystery out of it. It's either in compliance or it's
Joe-
not.
Joe has provided samples of concrete.
Yeah, got them in the bag.
And the pictures, a core sample will show you there's no base underneath.
That's what I'm getting at. If there's no
It will
base,
show there's nothing underneath the.
can we make them then legally
Fix
go
it.
back and fix it?
I would imagine so if it wasn't done, and that's why we had a meeting with the city earlier this week, is just discuss.
Well, let's go do it.
Okay.
We have a resident saying it's not done right. Let's either affirm what he's saying, or if he's correct, then we ought to hold Lennar accountable.
You should do it, the core samples, the way AST, I think it's an ASTM standard. It will tell you how many you have to do.
Yeah, do it right.
Be
If
sure
you're
to
gonna
do it
do it right.
Be sure to do it right.
I do it in the new pour and in an old pour.
Right.
And I'll get back on this at the board meeting next week.
Is that something we have to go to the board with?
No, but I don't have to go to the
No, I
board,
was just
but
asking.
just to let her know.
That we'd like to do that?
Discussion comes
Yes.
up, that's something.
And we ought to tell Lennar, they ought to be a part of it, they ought to be there when we take
We
the course.
can ask Lennar and WCI, you want the original samples, because they had to do it from the original samples and compare did they do it? Maybe they didn't.
And that's
And-
correct, state
and-
code states that they.
You have to have those samples.
Right, and I would probably push this off to Tetra Tech being the district engineer.
No, that's fine, but
Right,
it's
so-
got to come from the office,
Right.
and task authorization and all that crap.
Right,
you know.
yeah, go out and do the core samples and
Yep.
talk.
But let's
Should we-
recommend that they do
Should we go
that.
ahead and make a motion that,
I'll make a motion
all right,
To do what?
that we formally ask the board if we need to
no.
support, okay, that we're asking to have core samples and
Whereas
analyzed.
I think from what I'm hearing from Chris say, it's under his authority, so something, we can go ahead and authorize ourselves. I think him telling the board is something, but if you make your motion.
I'll make a motion that we authorize Chris to go forward with getting core samples.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Further discussion?
Only that we got a reputable engineering firm to do it,
All in favor?
whoever that is.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And I would add too, when you try to do a good deed, it goes unpunished, because I got a call from a resident on Carina Circle, and he said, oh, when I was in there redoing all these curbs. And he goes, it really looked nice, he said, except for their contractor had a leaking hydraulic hose, now I got a puddle of material and up and down the new street.
Sewer viewer all over again when they leaked on their streets.
That's what it made me
Oil
think.
stains everywhere.
And I actually told him, I said, well, it's not my bailiwick at the moment, but here's the call to Lennar Customer Service, and I sent an email over to Cindy Rice and said, here's the guy's name, and I said, by the way, he took pictures of the truck that was doing the work, the people and the stains and puddles in his driveway.
Well, I know Phil has seen this, and you have too, Chris, but we've heard a number of Joe's presentations alleging certain things, and it goes right over Lennar's head, goes right over the board's head, and now we finally taken some concrete action to put some teeth into it, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and I will take that direction, I mean, and request it from the board, because in the big scheme of things, the attorney and engineer work for the board, not for me. So we might change that in the near future, but they don't work for the district manager, so a lot of this, they're taking direction from the board.
Good.
If I may say, my newfound friend here also saw
Yeah.
that construction and confirmed they poured
I didn't take
concrete.
pictures.
Well, core samplings are gonna validate it, we'll be good.
Thank you.
Okay.
And when the gentleman called me, I wanted to say too, I said, why are you calling me and how did you get my number? And he goes, well, I heard in Pelican, you're the person to call. And I said, oh, whoever said that's wrong.
No, that's true, we posted on a sign out there.
Yeah, right, call Chris.
Here's
Thank
his
you.
cell number.
I knew that revenge would come in one day.
Okay, Safety and Security Work Group, just a couple of things. I had a very brief discussion with the district council this morning about his legal review of our proposal. He has not done it.
He still
yet,
hasn't done it.
but he
Surprise,
pro-
surprise.
But he promises that he will do it, he will do it tomorrow. And what I told him is that the process that I think we should follow is, if his review doesn't disclose any killer things, in other words, things that our proposal is saying that aren't legal, that we will proceed to the board. And they will get his proposal, and they will get his legal review along with our proposal. And now, if there's some kind of a killer thing in there, we may have to bring it back to you, but that's where we are with the proposal. It's taken me a long time to get Tony to even step up to that. The other
Excuse me,
thing.
Phil, I have to, thank you.
Yep. The other thing I would mention is that we have the Safety Security Work Group has a laundry list of things that we need to address. That after we get over this hump of getting this proposal through, we've got lots of signage and road markings and things like that. Now, as you recall, in the proposal itself, there are a couple of things we want to do. One at the bridge on Pelican Reserve Boulevard, and the other one is at the Veneto Pelican Preserve Boulevard intersection. There are some things we want to do there. And those are part of the proposal, but they're not a controversial part of the proposal.
Right.
And so that would go forward with the rest of the proposal, but there are also lots of other things that we'd like to take a look at, having to do with speed limits in various places, having to do with whether we should be putting stop signs and other things in that have been requested by various parts of the community. So we will be looking at those things and perhaps bringing you some proposals in that regard. That is about all I've got to report for Safety and Security Work Group, unless somebody else has some questions. No? Okay. No questions, then we will move forward. If I can find my,
Where's your agenda?
what did I do with my agenda?
I know you just had it.
I just
You were
had it
marking
in front of my face.
It's meeting attendance, gateway meeting attendance
Actually,
schedule.
we
Now you have to
skipped
go
the
back.
Board meeting report.
The board meeting report is a written
Oh.
report.
I'm sorry.
I don't see any necessity to talk about it.
Can I
Sure, you may ask a
offer a
question.
correction?
Sure.
You talk about, I think you were referring not to the Avila community, but you were referring to the, what is it, the Sienna community, with the crosswalk conveyances?
No, I
Is
was,
it
I
Avila?
was absolutely talking about Avila. Avila owns part of the Tract L conveyance. They have property.
Oh, I'm
that-
sorry, Tract L, okay.
That they have property that belongs to them. They have not come up with a way of transferring, but they now, I was informed by the Avila people this morning that they are going to do it. They are actually, they are going to transfer, they're going to give an easement to WCI Lennar. And so when WCI Lennar makes the conveyance, it will be complete. WCI Lennar had proposed, since they'd been trying and had been unsuccessful, that they just make the conveyance and leave Avila to take care of their part of it. And the board was ready to accept that, and it seemed like an acceptable thing. But now it appears that Avila has finally come around, and they're gonna do what needs to be done.
What part do they own?
It's,
I can't picture.
huh?
I
Well,
can't picture what they would own that's part
It's
of Tract
around
L.
the
It's around, yeah, Cypress Grove as at the end of Cypress Grove, as it approaches Pelican Reserve Boulevard,
Okay.
over on the south side of it, I believe. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where that tract is, Nancy, but there are,
Okay.
Strange
there are
stuff.
pieces, there are pieces
Like
that,
Sienna owning
that
part
come
of
very,
the
very.
path
Exactly.
near the preserve.
That happen
And
to
that's
come.
what,
They figured
that's
that
what I
out.
thought of when I was reading it.
Well, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did too at first, and then I saw Tract L, and I thought, oh, I just can't picture this.
Yeah, but it's Cypress Grove Boulevard,
Okay.
or Cypress Grove
Well, thank you for clarifying.
Drive. You're welcome. The Gateway attendance schedule. I guess the last time we decided that, Ron, you're
Yep, I got next week.
You're up next. I may be there because of this conveyance
Sure.
issue. And Nancy, you will pick up March 1st. And I'll pick up March 15th. Again, if March 1st, and this is what I'm hoping we're going to be able to do, if we can get Tony's memo, I think we'll be ready to present our proposal from the traffic study, which includes the golf cart issue, and if that's true, I would plan to attend the March 1st meeting. But I'll take March 15th, I volunteered for it. The two meetings in April will be, I don't have a calendar, can someone?
Looks like the 5th and the 19th.
5th and the 19th. Can we have a volunteer for either of those?
I can do the 19th,
The 19th, okay, is John?
pretty sure.
Okay, Mr. Grego will do the 19th. We have somebody who can do the 5th. Can't be me, I'm not gonna be in town.
Put me down for the 5th. I may have to,
Okay,
Say-
we can always shuffle that card.
yeah, I
if
may
we
have
need
to shuffle it.
Far enough
Okay,
out.
Nancy Hall
We can adjust.
for the 5th, okay?
That was what
Hmm?
month?
April.
Well, we always try and get a little ahead of things. Committee member requests and audience comments. Any committee member requests? Audience comments?
May I make
Yes.
some quick?
Sure.
On February 22nd, the CDD Board's going to hold a planning advance over in Gateway Greens Country Club, one of their planning rooms, 9 to 12 o'clock. They have a facilitator there, and it's basically board priorities, budget priorities, big picture planning type things, so. anyway.
That is an open and posted meeting, I assume?
Yes.
Mhm. Okay.
And we also have hired a consultant that's working on an assessment methodology. How are these assessments done in the community? They've still been using the one that's 25 years old. So looking at updating and also looking at establishing a stormwater utility for funding to clean gutters and maintain lakes and that type of thing, something where it's transparent. Here's where this money's going. So that's another thing they're looking at. We also have a utility rate study underway. The district sells their irrigation water for 30 cents a thousand gallons, 31 cents now. The other utilities are supporting it, and in comparison, the bulk rate, like for a golf course or a community for reclaimed water from the city of Fort Myers, is over 80 cents a thousand. So I told the folks in Gateway, the water and sewer and irrigation, some of the lowest, if not the lowest, in Southwest Florida. And I said, you're just deferring a lot of maintenance of your assets, that bill's gonna come due. And that study's underway, preliminary will be presented at the 15th board meeting, but over the next 3 months, you'll see a public hearing and something that may impact those utility rates.
Sure.
And we've also been working very closely with the folks on there on the smelly water issue. And the more they do it, it seems like
Been lots of
there's a
correspondence.
line, and the P-trap, because most of the complaints come from one sink in the house. And had the health department in there, and it seems like we did a flushing program where we asked everybody for 3 days to flush a certain amount of time. And we got a lot of blowback about, well, who's gonna pay for this water? And I was like, what, the $5? But, you know, if you want a water bill credit to do it, we don't think it's our issue, but we've been working to get it solved, and the folks over there have been very helpful. And we actually, in Manatee County, they've identified the P-trap and also this one hose as this cause for this odor. They ran into the same thing, and we hired a private plumber to go in and replace it in the house to see, all right, we replaced it, did that work? But it seemed like the flushing had a big impact with most of the residents over there. And that's all I have.
Any questions, Chris?
No.
Any other comments?
Just
Yeah, go
one,
ahead,
Ron.
Nancy.
Another number, I don't know if Jack will need this, but we've got 363,544 that will go into the reserve fund this year.
This year, if we
Oh,
make a
yeah.
special
Yeah.
request to do that.
Well, no, that's what's budgeted to go in.
It's budgeted, yeah.
That's what's
but I think-
budgeted to go
I think-
in.
I think we have,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I think we have to make a formal
I think we
Request.
did.
Or something that
request
they do
to the
that.
board that they do that. that they
But
make
we'll
that
do that,
transfer.
when would we do that?
I thought Stephen Bloom did it last year at the end of the year,
No, not automatically.
No, no,
because it's right in our budget that will transfer over to reserves.
So this is from which budget, the one we're in now, this budget?
Yeah,
year?
this budget year,
Execution
2018.
Yeah.
Because we kind of we reduced it a little bit from last year to balance and
To
not
balance,
raise
right,
rates.
Nancy, would you check with Stephen, but I'm quite sure that we've got to make a
Yeah, we have to
formal,
make a
Okay.
motion.
make a motion.
Okay,
that
so there's
we
no-
request to do that.
But that's the
bottom line
funding
to
right
that,
now
there's
that
another
we have planned to go
300,000
into it, yeah.
That will be there regardless, once we.
But that's in
we
those
approve.
excess funds.
Yes.
It's in those excess funds,
It
yes.
is part of it.
Oh, is it part of that?
It would be part of
Oh,
those
okay,
excess
okay.
funds.
All right, we're good.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion. The next meeting's March 8th.
So moved, to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
the meeting's adjourned.
At 3:55 PM.
Not
So
bad.
I'm not going to be at the
Chris.
next meeting.
Sir.
The next meeting.
The next meeting.
One of
So
the
I will
utilities
look at
put a
this.
stain on Bella Vista Drive.
It's a long
You made comment.
meeting.
How did we get that?
It's a long meeting.
This one? It's only 4 o'clock.
It's always close to
When was the
4.
last time you were at a CDD meeting?
Oh,
Talk
yeah.
about long meetings.
I haven't been to one in a while.
They haven't finished in 2 hours.
That's what I have to find out. I don't know if it's
Submission.
the water department or the sewer department.
Oh, yes.
Unfortunately, I can't.
I'll try to find, and it happened about a month ago, a little less.
Hope all of them are able.
Pictures or something.
Well, we can see it. I mean, it's,
No, I'm just saying, a lot of times when it's out there, they prove those.
no, no, that you could see where it came from, I think.
Oh, okay,
Okay, they had to pour, they poured some concrete.
right. Oh, and so they probably had leaking out of the truck or a hydraulic hose.
I have no idea.
Well, I know once that
I was staying right
hydraulic
at the
leaks
beginning
on
of the street.
asphalt, it's,
Who,
you know,
who did that?
I'm sorry, where are you talking about?
only
The stain right as you turn in Bella Vista.
And then
Get it out of there.
discoloration
Big concrete
of
stain right at the
But after
turn.
that, that'll
But at
bleach
least
out.
Oh, I don't know.
don't end up with a hole, you know. 2 things. Number one,
Just to follow up,
Hi,
what you said before.
well, the meeting
as
just
far
ended,
as numbers or
so
plus
if you could
factors.
tell them, I might be,
Road
it might
paving.
be 5 minutes late or something.
Good luck.
That way you can see
Because
what's
it'll take me about 20 minutes to get.
Second thing, old
Alrighty.
issue.
Bye-bye.
You remember that
Comment about
Flags on the
air raid
intersections.
flag? Did that ever,
I had it sitting
think
on my
about
desk.
putting a
okay,
timer on
send
them
me a
to shut
copy.
them down, say at 11 o'clock at night and start them up at 6? That would save a third.
You mean the, oh, you mean the fountains?
They're supposed to be shut off, right?
They don't run 24 hours.
They
They don't run 24 hours.
No, I don't know how, because I've been walking along there a couple
And I'll,
times when they
I'll
come
get
on
that
and it
PO
kind
out
of.
tomorrow.
Well, I have to confess, I'm not walking around at 11 o'clock or 1 o'clock.
Well, this is in the morning,
I don't know
sometimes
if
they
it'll
come on, I
happen,
think about
but-
7.
Well, I've seen them off in the morning time.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can put in
I thought that's because they were broken.
No, I mean, it's always possible to run time a little bit more, I suppose.
Yeah, matter of fact, if you wanted to, you could invoice mine.
Yeah, depending on, yeah,
Now, did we pay for the one at the golf course or is that the golf course edition?
we shouldn't be paying.
We pay for the ones there.
The town center, one in the town center, and one in the pond going towards the town
Yeah,
center.
and then we also pay for the fountains out front at the corner.
That's right, we're stuck with that too.
We're stuck with that too.
Is that a forever?
And when you end up sending
Well,
it,
okay,
give
part
them
of
that
that's
information
sure.
by sending your invoice later. They must be doing
I was just
something.
thinking, there was a timer on them, I thought they ran 24/7.
They don't run 24/7, I just don't know how many hours.
Well, cut it back.
Yeah.
Kind of, don't have them going on until about 11 o'clock in the morning because people are sleepy when they're leaving in the morning anyhow. No, I'm sure people like it when they're walking and riding their bikes around. They like it.
People like the sound of water.
Yeah, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought it'd be really neat if they were gonna put them
Oh,
in.
you're welcome.
I haven't done any cooking yet, but.
The lady that, let me turn this off. The lady that sent them to us is a diehard. She,
There's a Indian restaurant, I think it's called Indian Star of India or something, that's doing a vegan, oil-free buffet Sunday night.
ooh,
And it's on 41, I think, like around St. Carlos Park.
okay.
But it's from 6 to 9, a vegan buffet, so I think I'm gonna go, just, partly because I complain there's not enough restaurants that serve vegan food, so I
Mhm.
think when I find one, I should support it.
Yes.
You know, and then, a friend of mine just went to a restaurant over behind the Royal Palm Theater, and there's plazas back there called the Living Vine Organic Cafe that had,
Oh.
it's not all vegan, but they had vegan, quite a few vegan, vegetarian, and then meat dishes too. So it's another one, I gotta go try it.
Have you tried that, oh, what's it called? True Food Kitchen?
I haven't yet, down in